December 1941. The echo of Pearl Harbor had barely faded when America awoke to a war it had never wanted but could no longer avoid. Across the Atlantic, Nazi Germany stood triumphant, its flag spread from the sands of Africa to the snows of Russia. Factories in Essen and Munich burned day and night, churning out tanks, aircraft, and guns for a Reich that promised 1,000 years of dominance. In Berlin, men in black uniforms believed the future of war belonged to them. But in Washington and Detroit, and in countless small towns across America, another kind of army was forming, one without rifles or medals. Its weapons were hammers, rivets, and steel. At the White House, Franklin D. Roosevelt stared at a map littered with red pins, each marking a German conquest. "We will be the great arsenal of democracy," he declared, his voice calm but resolute. The words carried far beyond the walls of that room. They reached the hum of assembly lines, the pounding of forges, and the hearts of millions of men and women who were about to transform America into something it had never been before, an engine of unstoppable production. In the black and white glow of dawn, the Ford River Rouge plant roared to life. Sparks flew like fireworks as workers, their faces smeared with sweat and soot, welded the skeletons of tanks that would one day roll through Europe. On the factory floor, foremen barked orders. "Faster! We need 10 more by morning." Conveyor belts screamed under the weight of steel. Women dressed in overalls tightened bolts and riveted plates, their hair tied back under bandanas. They were called Rosie the Riveters, and their hands built the backbone of victory. Meanwhile, across the ocean, German industrialists like Albert Speer watched the early months of 1942 with arrogance. "The Americans are soft," one officer sneered inside the Reich Ministry for Armaments. "They make refrigerators and automobiles, not weapons." Speer smiled faintly. "They have quantity, but we have quality." Yet even as he spoke, American factories were already outpacing the Reich's entire output. In Detroit alone, by mid-1942, the automotive lines had been completely converted to war production. Where once stood rows of shiny new cars, now stood tanks, hundreds of them, painted in dull olive drab, ready for shipment. The war was no longer just a clash of armies. It had become a race of factories. Across the U.S., from California shipyards to Pennsylvania steel mills, a new kind of warfare emerged: production warfare. Every spark, every clang, every whistle marked another strike against tyranny. The scale was beyond imagination. A single factory in Willow Run could produce a B-24 bomber every 63 minutes. The sky above was filled with the growl of engines being tested for flight. Below, women rolled ammunition by the ton. Men who had never seen combat lifted wrenches like rifles. Their battlefield was the assembly line. By 1943, America's industrial miracle had reached full stride. Shipyards along both coasts glimmered with movement day and night. In Richmond, California, welders stitched together Liberty ships faster than the enemy could sink them. 3 days, one worker shouted proudly as a ship slid into the harbor. "We built her in 3 days." The camera would cut to Berlin, where Hitler raged at reports of American output. "It's impossible," he hissed, slamming his fist onto a map. "They cannot build faster than we destroy." But they could, and they did. Each black and white frame of that era tells a story of defiance. Rows of aircraft hangars stretched beyond the horizon, filled with P-51 Mustangs, B-17 Flying Fortresses, and C-47 transports. Pilots climbed into cockpits that still smelled of paint, guided by the hum of engines built by farmers, mothers, and students. The voice of America was no longer political speeches or radio shows. It was the thunder of production, the rhythm of machinery echoing across the nation. At the same time, in the heart of the Reich, Speer's engineers fought a losing battle. German factories, once efficient, were now crumbling under relentless Allied bombing. Smoke rose from Essen, Hamburg, and Cologne. "We can't replace the machines fast enough," one German mechanic whispered as bombs shattered the night sky. Railways burned, power lines collapsed, and the great industrial heart of Germany began to fail. In contrast, America's war machine grew faster, stronger, more precise. Every American worker became part of a vast, invisible front. On a cold morning in Ohio, a young machinist wiped the grease from his hands and whispered to his friend, "My brother's in France. Every bullet I make might save his life." In New York, a teenage girl rolled bandages while listening to news of the Pacific War. These weren't soldiers, but they fought with the same courage. They worked through exhaustion, through grief, through the constant ache of waiting for letters that might never come. As 1944 dawned, the contrast was complete. While German factories struggled to repair bomb damage, American output soared to unimaginable heights. The U.S. produced 96,000 aircraft in a single year, more than the Axis powers combined. The sound of engines testing in the sky became the heartbeat of the free world. In the shadow of smokestacks, Roosevelt's promise came alive. The arsenal of democracy was unstoppable. In black and white, the camera pans over endless rows of Sherman tanks, their turrets glinting under winter light. Trains loaded with armor roll eastward toward the docks. Dock workers whistle as cranes lift warplanes into the bellies of ships. Somewhere in the distance, Glenn Miller's orchestra plays over a crackling radio. Don't sit under the apple tree. Hope and industry blend into a single sound. America isn't just fighting, it's creating. It's proving that a nation of ordinary people can forge miracles out of steel. Meanwhile, inside Hitler's bunker, reports arrive daily. The Americans have built another 5,000 tanks this month. Their bombers are endless. Frustration fills the air. We have better machines, a German general shouts. Then why are we losing? Another answers. The truth is simple. Germany's machines were magnificent, but too few. America's were humble, but infinite. Factories that had once built bicycles now produced aircraft engines. Typewriter companies made rifles. Refrigerator plants made torpedoes. Even toy manufacturers turned their molds toward the war effort. It was total mobilization, the transformation of an entire civilization into a single purpose: victory. The faces of the workers tell the story best. In every photograph, their expressions are a mix of exhaustion and pride. Men with soot-blackened faces laugh as another tank rolls off the line. Women stand shoulder to shoulder at workbenches, humming softly as they tighten bolts. The war brought hardship, rationing, and sacrifice, but also unity. For once, the divisions of class and gender blurred under the pressure of a shared mission. Everyone had a role. Everyone mattered. By D-Day, June 1944, America's industrial army had already secured the outcome. The invasion of Normandy was not won on the beaches. It was won in the factories. The landing craft, the tanks, the planes, the bullets, all were born from the endless rhythm of American production. When the first wave of soldiers stepped onto French soil, they carried not just weapons, but the weight of millions of hands that had shaped those weapons with care and hope. As the war turned, Germany's economy collapsed. The Reich's factories lay in ruins. Allied bombers, guided by precise intelligence, erased what remained of its industry. Speer walked through the wreckage of a munitions plant, his once proud eyes hollow. "We cannot outbuild them," he murmured. The truth had finally reached Berlin. The war of machines was over. America had won it without firing a single shot at the factory floor. Back in the U.S., the mood shifted. Victory seemed close, but the work never slowed. In California, shipyard workers cheered as another aircraft carrier slid into the Pacific. In Chicago, steel workers worked overtime through Christmas, forging armor for tanks that might never see combat. But they didn't care. "We'll build till it's over," one foreman said, lighting a cigarette, "and then we'll build peace." When Germany finally surrendered in May 1945, the world saw the truth in black and white. America had buried the Reich not under fire, but under steel. 297,000 aircraft, 86,000 tanks, 2.6 million machine guns, 40 billion bullets, numbers so vast they defied comprehension. Factories that had once been quiet towns became legends of production. The war had been won not just on the front lines, but on the factory floor, in the hands of the worker, in the hearts of those who never stopped believing. In the closing moments of the documentary, the voiceover softens. The camera glides over empty factories now silent, machines resting in peace. Windows reflect sunlight where once sparks had flown. A radio plays faintly in the background, Roosevelt's old speech. "We must be the great arsenal of democracy." The words echo one last time before fading into silence. Then, a final image. A lone worker stands at the edge of a vast assembly hall, holding his helmet under his arm. Dust drifts in the shafts of light. His eyes meet the camera. He smiles faintly, tired, proud, and free. Behind him, the ghosts of machines that once built victory stand like monuments. And the narrator's final words rise above the hum of memory. In the end, wars are not only fought with bullets, but with belief. The belief that the hands of ordinary people can forge the destiny of nations. America did not conquer with might alone. It conquered with motion, with unity, with the rhythm of its people. And that rhythm still echoes, the heartbeat of freedom, the sound of steel, the production of victory.